Okay, so the purpose of this short video presentation is just to explain to you how you can stay emotionally, motivationally, and academically balanced in these challenging times in the pandemic. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about how you do that, how you stay in your center. So first of all, I'm going to explain to you what we know. There's lots that we know about these types of situations and what helps and what doesn't help from previous situations where there was an interruption to school. So there was an OECD study done on the long-term impact of school closures. And it has only shown tiny effects of the school reduction in the school year linked on students' outcomes. And after those Christchurch earthquakes in 2011, when school buildings were destroyed and etc., people were displaced, which led to prolonged school closures and absence. It didn't undermine their performance in the end of the year exams. And it also, in terms of the hysteresis, which is your progression to employment further and higher education, the long-term loss of that was very limited, provided that certain things were done. Okay, and I'm going to talk about those things in a minute. Okay, but it's very useful to use this as an example because it happened in 2011. So people right the way up along in high school, you know, first to sixth, would have come through and then moved on to college and moved on into work since then. So we've great. It's a great way of it's great information for us. So if you look here at this diagram, it sort of explains how best to manage it. So, for example, where there was high learning intensity in the schools, but low engagement, this would be in the distance learning and the limited online that they had at that time, where there was high intensity but low student engagement, the long-term learning loss was bigger, and the hysteresis, the progression was more harmed. The best situation is where you're somewhere in the middle between high intensity learning, where you're not putting massive, huge pressure on yourself in the difficulty level, but that you are definitely engaging. So the optimum situation is a good balance between engagement and intensity. Okay. Here we see where there was low learning intensity, where the difficulty level of the material being covered and the quantity of the material being covered was lower, but the student engagement was high. The learning loss was more short term. It wasn't as long term as in this situation. And also in terms of the progression, the impact was very limited or short term. So the learning piece in that is, in order to give us the best chance of progressing on after school, getting into college, into our jobs or apprenticeships or whatever, and in order to limit the impact on us in the Leaving Cert, in our performance in the Leaving Cert, the most important thing that you can do and that I can do as a teacher today is to engage and to link in with school and with each other as a community. That is the most important thing of all. And if you can do your bit of study and things like that as well, brilliant. But the important thing is the connection and the linking in and the attendance. We can see this very, very clearly from this study. Okay, so the next piece, staying motivationally balanced. Okay, staying motivated, not giving up. So this guy, Michele Csikszentmihalyi, he was the godfather of motivational psychology, and he said that flow is that perfect balanced state where skills match challenges and you're not stressed or anxious or bored or demotivated. Okay, so in this COVID scenario, we have to accept that due to the additional challenges facing us, that we may not be able to challenge ourselves to a degree because we're facing additional challenges to do with the pandemic, additional to what we normally have to do. Okay, so we have to maybe rebalance again the challenges that we bring on ourselves and the expectations we have on ourselves with our academic skills and also now our coping skills as well, in order to keep us in flow and stop us from either going up here if we over challenge ourselves into a space of anxiety, or if we don't do enough and we don't bother, to being bored or being apathetic and not caring anymore. So we have to try and stay in the middle. So what happens if we don't stay in the middle? Well, as I said, you could end up bored, apathetic, that you don't see the point or don't care, worried or anxious if you over challenge yourself and don't look after yourself and be kind to yourself. Okay, and also we probably need to work on the skill level in terms of coping. which is why I'm doing one part of it is doing this informational video, but how you cope and how you manage it needs to be developed in addition to the academic skills development. So how do I actually stay emotionally balanced as well as being in this flow state where I'm balancing effectively the personal and the academic challenges that I'm facing with my coping skills and my academic skills? How do I stay emotionally as well as motivationally and academically balanced? Okay, well, you have to try and balance these two things. So you have to balance expectations of yourself and expectations of others and of the situation in the pandemic itself. You're trying to stay in the middle here, okay? So if you don't, I'll tell you what's going to happen. So if you have too much expectations of yourself, you're going to end up anxious. You're going to feel panicked, burdened, weighed down. Often you'll see people jumping back and forth in time, giving out to themselves for things they did in the past instead of working in the present. Catastrophizing over, there's no point because it's all, oh, I made the mistake now. I'm never going to be able to do Leaving Cert, or I'm never going to be able to pass the maths or whatever. Just all this kind of thoughts happen when you have too high expectations of yourself. When you have too high expectations of others and of the situation, you can end up frustrated, angered, annoyed. Why don't they just do this, or why don't they just do that? Putting things on the long finger, or feeling helpless, or blaming others. What's the point? No matter what I do, it makes no difference, which is not true. Okay? Or seeking answers where there aren't any, or speculating. You know, the media are very good at speculating, and there'd be no substance at the back of it all. You know, and you headlines, they're forever putting up headlines, and when you actually read the article, it doesn't connect at all with any of the facts, if there are any facts even in the article, you know, and that happens quite a lot in relation to education because it's clickbait. They know people will click on it looking for aren't any. So stay away from that altogether. To stay in flow, how do you stay away from either one of those extremes and keep in the middle? To stay in flow, I've put an acronym on it, SLOW. So S is for stay in the now. What can I do now, today, tomorrow? Okay, keep yourself in the now. Link in, as I said previously with the Christchurch finding, connection is absolutely vital. Link in with school, attend, no matter how much you're able for or not able for, or how much you take on in school. You might have to reduce what you take on if you're feeling overwhelmed or whatever, but you do attend, okay, link in. Own it. So what do I mean by that? Okay, what can you do yourself? What is your responsibility in the situation to do? What can you do now? And also own how you're feeling. If you were feeling overwhelmed, say, I feel a bit overwhelmed, I can't do this now. Okay, I'm going to have to do a little bit less. But don't totally down tools, you know, bring it down a little bit, but don't go right down to where you're bored and apathetic, you know. So own it, be honest, how do I feel? And ask others how they feel as part of linking in. Okay, linking in is not sending someone a link to an article on the Leaving Cert with some kind of deft, or when schools are going to be back, or some kind of deft heading. Linking in is actually asking the person how they feel and sharing your feelings with others. That's what linking in is. Watch your thoughts, be careful. I know this lockdown is quite different than the first lockdown. People were doing, you know, top 10s and things like that. So that led your mind to a place of gratitude. If I was trying to think of my favourite song, I was thinking of all the lovely music. So that led me to a place of gratitude. Or I was trying to think of my favourite top 10 cakes. Then I was thinking about nice things and in a gratitude space. But unfortunately, this time in the media, a lot of the stuff that's going out is actually quite negative. So just be careful about where you're led, especially in social media. And as I said, try and stay in the now. So the S for slow, stay in the now. And focus on the nows and the knowns about our situation. So what are the nows and knowns? There will be progression to college, apprenticeship, work, etc. Okay, there will. We know in other times where there's school disruption, that has still continued to happen, and there's lots of things you can do to ensure that that happens. There will be applications and preparation to be done, well, for Leaving Cert, but there'll be preparation to be done for fifth years as well, and everyone up along learning to be done. Okay, there are so many ways you can improve your situation and progress if you stay in the now, link in with others, make sure you're attending school and linking in with the school community, own it, be honest with yourself, how you're feeling, what you're able for, what you are you bored, are you tired, are you fed up, what are you? And then own it and say, what can I do about it? Okay? And attempt to do the same with others and link in positively. Okay, watch your thoughts. Okay, stay away from kind of negative. Surround yourself with positive thoughts and positive people as much as you can. Know as well that this too will pass. That's a fact. So link in with us and your classmates and school until it does. This will help you progress, and we know this for a fact because we know this from the OECD Christchurch findings. Be kind and be reasonable in regards to what you can expect of yourself and of the situation and others, so as to avoid anxiety, frustration, and demotivation. Okay, basically, when you expect too much of others, you might end up frustrated because they're not doing what you expect. And when you expect too much of yourself, you might overwhelm you and be anxious. So try and stay in that middle space by using the acronym SLOW. Stay in the now, link in, own it, and watch your thoughts. Okay, and that's it for now. Hope that this has been of benefit to you.